Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another spooky, terrifying episode of the Dual Screens podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and we're almost at the end of Halloween horror celebration month. Ugh, it's like I get to pick all these awesome horror games to spotlight for a nice 4 to 5 weeks, and now we're getting to the end. It's a little heartbreaking, but fortunately, we have an amazing guest today and an even more amazing game to talk about. So joining us this week is Goran Rajsic, developer of Ripout, an online co-op horror FPS that will have players fight their way through hordes of mutants that can reconfigure their alien bodies. Goran, welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
Hi, thank you. It's going great.
Yeah, you're joining us all the way from Serbia. That's I think it's a first for us here on the podcast.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. So yeah, well, there are actually quite a few developers now in Serbia, so it's quite a live community down here.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what is the game dev scene like in Serbia?
But it's like for the last 10 years, it's been growing really rapidly. Like we have the Nordius. It's a big mobile company that made top 11, and they're very very successful. And then we have Madhead Games. They signed with Embracer and Saber this year, so they'll be doing AA action games. We also have a lot of indies here and a lot of mobile studios. So it's growing. And then there is local Ubisoft as well, and in other city, Novi Sad, there is a part of Epic Games. Like they're doing 3D facial animations, like the ones that made MetaHuman. They're from here. So yeah, it's growing. It's pretty good.
Yeah, Embracer is just on a buying spree.
Yeah, yeah.
Gobbling everyone up.
I think it's a battle between Tencent and Embracer, like Tencent from the east and Embracer from the west, and I think that they're in some kind of a competition. Like the Embracer is trying to compete with them with the number of studios they're buying and trying to probably make a Western front or something against Tencent that is also buying everything. So I think that's probably the reason.
Who has the biggest dick made of money is what's happening.
Yeah. This is a billion-dollar company, so
Yeah.
so it's going to be. But I really am afraid about the future of this because if everything is going to be one or two companies, like everyone is going to be like controlled by just a couple of people. I don't think that's good for diversity of the gaming industry. So that's going. I think it's going to mess up some indies and everyone who is left around to fight even bigger competitors, because it's insane now the number of studios that are linked together under one roof, and it's I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to look in a few years.
Yeah, it's becoming such a huge part of the conversation. I feel every time there's an indie game that has a small fraction of success with the release, it's always, oh, so-and-so should just go and buy them. Like, why can't they just be a thing on their own and grow naturally and organically? And if they want to be bought out at some point, that's fine. But it's always like there's a weird conversation about indies being gobbled up by big developers and publishers. And
yeah, they are.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it's it's going to be a singular mindset. So that's what I don't like about it. And there will not going to be any freedom about the course of the gaming industry. And I think in a few years that how can we compete down the road when they have the large share of the market, and you're going to be virtually invisible on big platforms like Steam or PlayStation or whatever. So it's not going to pan out well for everyone who is not a part of a major company.
Right.
So that's, I mean, it's still cool right now, but if you see the trend, it's just going this one way road.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I feel I turn to the indie community like for your kind of game specifically, where you're trying to do something different that isn't it wasn't made out of a formula or a focused test group like how let's make the best selling AAA game to fit all these criteria. This is a passion project with a very specific vision that since it's indie, we own it and it's our vision alone and no one can corrupt that vision.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that was our starting point. Like do a core horror game with no restrictions. Like do it for the type of people that really appreciate that, without thinking about the broader market. Like doing a really hardcore 80s themed game, like paying homage to old horror movies like The Thing or the Fly, or all those body horrors from the 80s, and doing it and not trying to not emulate the formula that's like Left 4 Dead
Right.
or other games in that genre made, but do a different type of experience, a completely like undiluted experience.
Right. And that's where your game comes in because I'm a huge fan of horror. I love specifically the psychological mind-fucky type of horror, like a Silent Hill. But then there's the other side of the coin, which I adore, and that's the visceral, the body horror, the gross out things that will happen to your body. And Ripout seems to embrace all the best parts of body horror. So where did this game why don't you give me your sales pitch for what this game is?
Well, we started the basic premise was we really wanted to do a game where you land in derelict ships and you don't know what to expect. So that was very important for us to have that part of unpredictability in each mission, like not learning missions by heart, but going into a situation where you don't exactly know what awaits for you, both in terms of environment. And then we expanded that and said, okay, but let's do that with monsters as well. So let's have monsters kind of combine themselves and give different abilities, have different attacks each time. So that's how this thing came together, and then it transitioned itself very well to body horror, like having those smaller monsters attached to big monsters and create new grotesque enemies. So that's the basic pitch, and on top of that you have a gun that is also live, that's also part of this technology that can pull those monsters apart, like rip them apart. So that's where Ripout comes from, like attaching to them and just ripping them off, and also getting those parts and making you use them, letting you use those parts to your advantage. So it's like a circular thing. They can attach, you can take them, they can take you. So it's it gives a very very much freedom to the player, how the player is going to play it and how the whole situation is going to play out.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So first and foremost, I tried to search in my memory banks for any game that ever had a gameplay mechanism where enemies are merging and combining and changing shape and adapting and becoming stronger, have a different ability set. And the only game I could think of where enemies merge and become more terrifying is Tetris. Is there anything that you know of that I'm missing? Like, because this sounds like a first for me.
I'm not sure. I mean, I've been a gamer for like over 25 years. So I'm not sure if I did hear about it. I mean, it was really hard coming up with something that's a bit different. Not sure. I mean, I can't say for sure that there isn't a game. There are tons of games, so there probably is something similar, but we didn't like look at any other game for that feature. So I know that it came naturally to us through like discussions and this theme that I was saying about unpredictability. So that's where that came from. So I hope not. I hope it's a first. I mean, it's always good to be first.
Right.
And yeah, today it's crazy. I mean, there's so many ideas, so many games, and so many mechanics. It's really hurts our heads to come up with something remotely original, because everything's been done at this point.
Right. So what does that look like? Can you give me some examples of the moment-to-moment gameplay when a monster is recombining, reconfiguring? How does that affect the gameplay, and how does that all play out?
For instance, you get into a ship, you board the ship, and you look around the room, you inspect the room, and you probably see a type of monster, and you see smaller type of monsters, and you can inspect what they're about to do. If you aggro them, if you alert them in any way, the smaller monsters will rush to the big one and attach themselves. So if a smaller monster has like a tentacle, it will attach to the bigger monster, and the bigger monster will get this tentacle that gives it several abilities, like the ability to deny your pet gun, to attack it, or attach to it, or it gives it a very powerful melee attack that gives combos. So it becomes scarier, it becomes faster and more dangerous, and also it gets more health. So each time they attach together, they get both stronger, and they get these new, for instance, melee abilities. But then you have a lot of types. You have like the shields that can attach to them, or teleport enemies that suddenly give these big enemies teleportation, so they come to you quickly, or even projectiles that seek you, even healing, different healing abilities. But you can also, before they are alerted, you can grab these smaller monsters with your gun and get these for yourselves before you start the fight. So there's a bit of stealth as well. You can stealth a bit, inspect the room before alerting the enemies, try to assess the situation, try to get these smaller enemies if you can get them, and then start the fight. Like, plan it out, see what kind of approach you're going to have. So that's basically mixing, and there are a few types of bigger monsters and a lot of types of smaller monsters, and they like have these slots that they can attach the smaller monsters to them, so they can combine different things. Like, they can get both a shield or like some environmental weapons and melee weapons, and you have a combination, and suddenly this monster becomes a much bigger threat, both in health points and in ability to attack.
I'm not sure where the fascination for me first began, but I think it was Transformers. The idea of smaller things becoming a giant thing. There's something that's so fascinating about that concept to me.
Yeah, it's well, it's cool. I mean, like,
yeah, it's just cool. Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a cool feature. I mean, it's not sure where that fascination comes from, but yeah, definitely I love the Transformers when I was a kid, especially the big one that you can make out of the smaller ones. And
yeah.
also the one with the cassette, and that could eject the cassette, and that was also nice.
Oh, Soundwave was my favorite Transformer.
Yeah, Soundwave. Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Soundwave.
We couldn't afford a lot of Transformers when I was a kid, but that was one of the few that my mom actually purchased for me, and I adored it. And then she sold it at some point.
Okay.
How do you keep that gameplay mechanic fresh? Is it just like a bunch of combinations you guys have planned out for the monsters? How does that look like in terms of just keeping it very unpredictable as you're playing through the game?
Well, we're probably not going to throw every type of monster at you at the start, and
Mm,
the combinations are going to reveal themselves through the
mm,
game. So we're not going to give everything at the start. So we also are experimenting with what good combinations are, although we absolutely allow for our monsters to take anything. We're also going to, give them some direction about what is a preferred model for them to use. So we experiment with different combinations and try to be different every time you enter the ship. So that's because it's a lot of things are random, like the scenarios that pop out, like the waves of monsters that come to you, and the types of them, they're always somewhat random. So they should always give a different feeling each time you come in. So it comes down to having enough of these types of attacks and these types of abilities that give like a lot of combinations. So once we reach that number where we have enough of different feel each time you come into the ship, then we will be satisfied with that. So right now there are like 7 types of smaller monsters and 5 types of the bigger ones. So we're going to add a few more, and until we get that feeling. Okay, now it's different enough every time.
and even the levels themselves are procedurally generated too. So there's
Yeah.
an even greater random element that's tossed into the mix just to further.
Yes, it's very important for us, for you not to exactly know where they are going to come from, and what's around the corner, and what is there even a corner, and what doors you can open or not. So every time you enter, we like I said, we don't want people to be familiar with the environment too much. I mean, of course, that there is going to be some repetition as you play, but it's never going to be exactly the same. So it's very important for horror, like if you play Dead Space, that it's a very linear experience. But because of this, you always have something new waiting for you, like the next room, and where is the enemy coming from, what shaft is it coming out of, what closet is it coming out of. So we wanted to translate some of that feeling into a multiplayer repeatable experience. So because multiplayer is always a very, very similar experience in terms of where the enemies come from, and what environments you enter, and you learn them by heart, and you try to be the better you are at the game, the better you know everything, every single corner of it. We want the opposite, like you don't want to feel at ease ever, even if you're very familiar with the game. So it's a challenge. It's not, we're not 100% there yet. It's something that we're still working on, but that's the main thing, like have a fresh game every time you pop in. We don't want you to get comfortable.
Yeah, and this is the perfect genre to explore that sort of gameplay element where you can't get by on your memory and trial and error.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a purely skill driven experience. Like you need to rely on how you use your weapons and survive essentially.
Exactly. So we want the players to go slowly, go thinking. There are going to be action sequences, like you have to go in guns blazing, but that's just a small part of it. The other parts are going to be like, okay, figure out, are you going to go a bit stealth? Are you going to use this type of weapon here? And what would be a good approach for each area that you're moving through? So uh, that is definitely where horror comes in. This is something that is, I mean, it's hard to do a co-op horror game, because
Mm.
when you're with friends, it's not as scary. So this element of surprise is something that makes up for that. But we also left you with a single player experience if you don't want to play with anyone. So it's balanced out for that as well.
How do you approach again the horror aspect with it being a co-op game? Because I feel like you've said before, it takes away a little bit of the suspense, knowing someone's there with you to kind of get by. How do you get rid of that and make it as scary as possible, knowing that there's still someone with you and you can still at any point be devoured by one of these monstrous
Yeah.
enemies?
Well, first, yeah. Obviously, it's a bit the levels scale up a bit if there are more players. But of course, it's not only about damage. It's about the monsters themselves. It's not a horde shooter, so there are not a lot of enemies. So even when you're playing with your friends, so it's right now it's 3 people playing. We found out that for 4-player co-op is a bit messy and it takes away from the tension. So it was like our cap. We tested it and we got to the number of 3. That was just fine for us for both the experience and the balance of the game. And you have to, like, when there are 3 people, you have to work together to take down bigger enemies, because it's not going to be like 100 zombies or something that you have to mow down. So that definitely is not something that's scary. It's just action. So
Right.
we wanted to focus on that one enemy that you take some time to get down. So they're like almost like mini bosses. Like most of the enemies won't go down with a few shots. It's you're going to have to cooperate, like use your pet gun, throw at the bigger enemies and throw pet gun at the same time, and like 3 pet guns attached to the monster and kill it simultaneously. So there's that cooperation, and instead of just running around and shooting at everything, you have to like be careful and plan this out together.
You keep mentioning this pet gun, and
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of videos about it. I've been reading up on it, and this thing looks fucking crazy. So I want you to tell me what this thing does, because I feel like another element to your game is not just this whole combining enemies aspect, it's also unique weapons, which a lot of games in this genre tend to shy away from. They go for like the
Yeah.
standard handgun, machine gun. You're like, screw that. We're doing a whole different thing on our end. So let's get
Yeah.
into that for a
Well,
little bit.
yeah, that was also obviously something that is already a trope in FPSs. Like you have a standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weapons, and that is something that people are used to. And being an indie developer, we were able to just say, okay, let's just try the player having just one weapon throughout the game that they can like create for themselves. You can put different attachments to it. You can make it your own. You can play however you think you should play it. But there is like once you're in the derelict, once you get in the ship, there is no changing it. Like if you took something that has a lot of ammo and a lot of firepower, but not necessarily good for long range or short range, you're going to be throughout that mission stuck with that one. So we don't want you to have your whole arsenal with yourself throughout one mission. Like you have to decide which way you're going to play, and that also adds to both tactical and the scary part that you have to think about. You have this one weapon, and once you even throw it, because it's a pet gun, you can throw it, and then you're left with weaker weapon. Like you have a pistol that's present once the pet gun is tearing through the enemies. So you'll be left without it. So the pet gun adds another element that you lose your main weapon while using it. So you have to balance it out, and also it adds to fear as well. I mean, you're in this big, scary, dark rooms without your weapon. So it's also a good factor for us to exploit horror from. So and it itself is a scary creature. So it's something that everything in this world is some kind of mutated scary technology. So basically, you have like the main mods for the pet gun. You have like what type of firepower you're going to have. Like, is it going to spew fire, or is it going to spew a laser or something? But then you attach other stuff like acid damage to it, or more faster firepower, or more ammo, or more precise. So there are a lot of mods for it as well. Just like you have a lot of mods for monsters, because this is the same type of technology. You can also mod your pet gun. So it becomes also this mutant itself that combines all that together.
It sounds like there's like a risk reward thing going on where you can
Yeah,
use it as
we're
like,
trying to do that.
yeah, like you can use it
Exactly.
as like a full-blown blaster, you know, or take a chance, send it out, and it can sort of harness the enemy's powers, but then you yourself are left weakened momentarily and more
Yeah, exactly. You're
vulnerable.
going to
Yeah.
have to decide what is a good time to do that. Like, if you're fighting 3 enemies at one time, and you want to like throw your pet gun at one of them, you're going to have to be sure that the other 2 are not going to kill you during that time. So that is always like a timing thing. When you're going to use it, like when it's 1 versus 1, it's probably easier to do it. But when you get 1 or 2 enemies, it's more than it's a decision making process, like a give or take. So yeah.
Well, that's where you have co-op. You can tell your friends, "Hey, I'm throwing the
Yeah,
pet.
exactly.
I'm throwing the pet
Exactly.
gun out. Give me some cover fire for a good few minutes."
Yeah, as well. So that they will, like I said, we hope the players will cooperate a lot about this feature. So
So you mentioned like having a loadout and then there's missions. Is the structure just like that? You pick from a series, like a list of missions, and then you pick like a pet gun sort of configuration, and you can go into that mission.
you're going to have your hub ship.
Mm-hmm.
So you start with your hub ship, and this is your base of operations. Like, you can pick out your suit, and you can pick out those different configurations for the pet gun before going into mission. And on your ship, you will have a map of the sector that you're in, the galaxy sector that you're in, and on that map you'll see these spaceships, and you choose which spaceships you're going to land on. And as you progress through the game, you're going to unlock a few abilities for your hub ships, so they can scan the ships and tell you a bit about what to expect. Like, okay, there are a lot of these types, so take this if you want, but it's not necessarily something that we want to force the players to do, like use a certain type of weapon for a certain type of mission. That's not going to happen. It's just that maybe we want them to know some part of the information before going in, and create the weapons accordingly. I mean, beforehand. So in your hub ship, there will be a practice range that you can practice your weapons with, and you will definitely collect, even craft new weapon pieces in there.
Does the game have like an overarching story to it? Like as I'm playing out missions, like is there a
Yes,
finite
there is.
end to the experience?
Yes, kind of. I mean, you do reach the end, but then you start the journey over. I'm not going to give away exactly how it goes, but
Okay.
yeah, it does have a story arc that will be presented through missions and things found in the derelict. We're not having like cutscenes or anything like that. I mean, we're
Mhm.
not. We're like focusing on environmental lore and lore found throughout the mission. So not everything is going to be spelled out, but there's definitely a story, a reason, and a goal
Mhm.
that you have to reach throughout a number of missions. We still haven't locked down the number of sectors and ships that you will have to complete before reaching the end, but it's probably going to be about 4 or 5 hours of gameplay. But then you start over in a very organic way, and continue the journey. And since the structure is random, it's not like you'll be playing the exact same thing again. So it's going to be that there are some roguelite elements to it as well. Like, if you fail a certain derelict ship, if you get killed, you can never go back to that ship again. So you're never going to have to repeat the same mission. You're going to maybe get a similar mission or a similar ship, but the exact same one you can't learn. Like you die in that, and you restart that ship again. You restart from your hub ship and choose another one.
Interesting. What's been the most challenging part of putting this disgusting masterpiece together?
Well, two things actually. It's the procedural generation of the levels. So definitely trying to make it seem organic, seem like avoid the usual pitfalls of procedural generation, of it looking cheaper than it should, and giving it like this unique feel each time you enter the ship. So we're still working on that, and of course AI of the enemies, because it changes constantly with these attachments, these smaller enemies, and it's a lot of challenge to do the enemies that constantly get new abilities or lose abilities, and those two things I think are the most challenging at this point. We still haven't gotten to the optimization of the whole thing yet, so there's some challenges ahead as well.
Yeah, I think a really good example of procedural generation done right is most recently Returnal. I think nailed that in their gameplay design.
I didn't play it yet, but cool. I should check it out if they did that.
Yeah, and it's got creepy sci-fi monsters too.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I saw it looks great. I should check it out. Yeah.
But then I can think of a game that did it really poorly, and it was like a Metroidvania game called Chasm. It looked so boring and so samey.
Yeah, it's a danger with procedure, like to get you try to do all this so you get variation, but then you get variations of the same thing. That's a problem. So yeah, we've been running into those problems. So we're trying to mix it with some pre-built stuff, mixing it with the generated stuff. So we'll see. I mean, there's still a lot of content that we have to do, and like it's very important for us for you to feel that you're in a different spaceship when you land. So yeah, we definitely are looking out for that pitfall.
So when can I play this masterpiece in the making? When's it out? I know it's next year, but when exactly?
It's next year. I'm really not sure. I mean, whatever I say, it probably won't be true, but certainly not before early summer. So not before early summer.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening in February next year, so you can totally skip that month. Totally fine.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's going to be a very busy year for games.
Let all the big shit come out.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, there's so many big games right now, so it's very hard to stand out. It's like competing for our time that is getting smaller as you grow older. The less time you have to play these games. So but there's a lot of content.
There is, but you say that, and I can look at your game and be more excited for that than a AAA big budget title.
Well, thank you. I hope others see that as well.
Because I can look at your game and I feel like, because I grew up, the Nintendo era, but primarily when I was, an early teen, it was all PlayStation 1 and 64 kind of games.
Yeah.
And this game looks like the design philosophy and the mindset is from that era where you wanted to be creative, and it was like the Wild West. Anything goes in game design.
Yeah, exactly. That you touched upon something that I've been feeling too. I mean, the bigger the games got, the less risk they take, because the teams are too big now, like 100+ people, and the investments are insane, and making a risky game is almost impossible for bigger teams. And in era of like PlayStation 1, where the teams were much smaller and the games were much cheaper to make, there were a lot of risks being taken, and yeah, I miss that era too. I mean, those early horror games and early FPS games tried new weapons, tried new enemies, tried new approach to levels. So that's exactly how we feel as well. Like we're looking more backwards than forwards. Like we're looking like at 80s horror, like I said, and even more 90s shooters. Like when it was fun to get the new game and see, oh, what type of gun did they think of in
Yes.
this one, and what kind of,
Exactly.
it was very, very exciting for me to get a new shooter and get a new crazy weapon, even if it doesn't work well. But they tried something else. Now it's very, you know exactly what you're going to get with shooters. So it's gotten a bit predictable. So
Yeah, because this game looks like it could have been dreamt up in that same era, but the tech wasn't quite there to make it a reality. But now it exists to make a game that can do all these funky stuff. Yeah. And again, especially horror, you talk about taking risks in AAA. It's like, save for if you like the Resident Evils of the world. It's, I feel horror specifically is lost on most AAA developers.
I think it's probably doesn't have as wide audience as other like more mainstream shooters provide. So it's that's the reason that you're not gonna see a big budget horror game. I mean, not of this type at least. I mean, you do have a great game like World War Z. That it's a good co-op game. However, it's not that scary in terms of it is in the horror genre, but it's not in the same genre like Resident Evil or the old Resident Evil. So it's not. So yeah, I know where you're coming from. So that was the same. That was the same sentiment we had when we said, okay, what can we do that they can't do because of the big budget and the big responsibility? And obviously body horror is one of the things that comes to mind. It's things that's going to, obviously they're going to keep some of the audience members away, but the ones that are there, I think, are very passionate about this type of genre.
See, and this goes back to why not everyone should be acquired by someone or bought out by someone, because games like this need a space to exist, free of like, well, this is too risky, I don't know about this, let's change this up, let's give it more of a formula. But yeah, I'm glad that you guys can exist and make a game as creative as this and as risky and as grotesque and off-putting, and I'm in love with it. I'm so in love with this game.
Yeah, thank you. This is very good to hear. Well, yeah, I hope it works out. I hope this proves that we can go ahead and make more scary and horrible games along the way. So that's our plans, to make a studio that's make this kind of niche games and not go into mainstream too much. But of course, this has to be financially viable at the end of the day. So let's see if there is enough of an audience for this game when it comes out.
Yes. All right, Goran, I think it's time for some rapid fire questions to sort of bring the show to a nice little point. I think first and foremost, when discussing horror and the things that terrify us, what image do you conjure up when I ask you what scares you the most?
I wouldn't necessarily say an image, but the fact that something is unknown, the nature of the universe itself and the unknown things in the universe. And that's where also good space horror comes from. Like what you don't know is something that scares you, a monster that you don't really see or can just get a hint of, or some type of a phenomenon that is scary but cannot be explained. I think this is something that is really scary for me, and that hint of uncertainty and something that we cannot fathom is where good horror comes from. Even body horror. I mean, it's even the thing that is exclusively like body horror, you don't exactly know what it is and what it wants and where it came from. So these are the things that keep it scary. So that's, I think that would be the thing that does it for me. Of course, wrapped in a good gory gory monster always, but the scary horror is always the one that is a bit beyond explanation.
God, you must love Lovecraft then, if that's.
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, I read a lot of Lovecraft back in the day. I mean, yeah. So definitely, yeah. I mean, that's exactly because he always like explains things by saying you cannot understand how horrible it is and you cannot fathom it. So that's where he's coming from. Like, if you explain it, if he's said exactly, okay, it has 3 tentacles and it bites your head off, it's not as scary as, something that's mysterious and is not fully explained and just it's here partially in a physical form, but the scary element is otherworldly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's also why horror set with that deep space backdrop works well compared to something that's set on Earth, because you have that additional element of isolation and the unknown of like the dark, scary void of outer space behind you.
Exactly. You're not at your home planet. You're not at your home. Everything is unknown. There's nothing to fall back on. That's the point of space. I think that's the beautiful and the scary thing about space. It's completely unexplored, completely surprising what can happen. And this is, I think, space horror can be the scariest horror of it all because of this backdrop.
If I'm casting you in a horror film, which person are you? Are you the final girl that beats the monster? Are you the in-between person that dies towards the end, maybe trying to save someone else? Or are you the guy that looks for the cat and then dies, like in the first
I certainly
minutes of the
hope I'm
movie?
not. I certainly hope I'm not the guy with a cat, but I probably would be some guy giving advice and then getting killed himself, something like that. Yeah, so in between probably.
Yeah, you're the guy that people are actually sad when they die in a horror movie. Like, oh, why did that guy have to die? He was so good.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Like the guy from Shining. That gets that horror trope, the mentor type. Yeah,
he tried so well to save the family and then he got axed right in the chest.
Yeah, I feel quite comfortable with being that guy.
It's funny you mentioned Shining because I have my Halloween costume. It's from Clockwork Orange, another Stanley Kubrick movie.
Okay. Awesome movie.
Hey, I was told to be a 70s theme, so I was like, all right, that's super 70s, and it's also Halloween-like, so it is.
It just does have even more horror to it than some horror movies. I mean, the Clockwork Orange is scary. I mean, it's a scary movie.
And now I own a big plastic codpiece, which is incredible. That's just part of my wardrobe now.
Did you make it or did you buy it somewhere?
I can't do that crafty cosplay stuff. It's like, okay, let me go online. What looks not cheap? That costs some money. Order it, ship it, done. Let's say one of your colleagues or a close friend gets a phone call in the middle of the night saying that you've been arrested for committing a crime. What crime have you committed?
Probably killed someone.
Oh my God.
In self-defense.
Yeah, okay. In self-defense. Got it.
In self-defense. That's type of a middle of the night scenario. Yeah. So.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I see you as like maybe you were trying to intervene or help someone out,
Yeah.
and then things
Well,
went too
well, I'm
far.
thinking probably something happened at home, some kind of a home invasion
Oh
scenario.
shit! Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do? Let's say I put you in a home invasion movie. What's
I
your
probably would. I have an axe handy here in my room
love
if I
it?
could find it because it's a real mess. But I have a very very sharp axe, so I think I'd go for the axe. I don't have a gun, so
Mm.
but I have a very good hand axe, so probably that. I go for that.
Is it like for wood chopping? What do you use it for?
I'm actually not sure. I think it was I bought it for something 10 years ago, and it just standing here. I think it had some use. I'm not sure what it is right now. It's not wood shopping. I don't use wood, but it
Right.
it was bought for something. Yeah, but nothing sinister. I guarantee it.
You need to like have it like either like up against a mantle or like on a wall and be like, oh yeah, that's my home invasion axe. I keep it there for when I need it. When the time
Yeah,
comes.
I should get it out. Really, you reminded me. But it's among the collectible toys that I have. So it's somewhere hidden. So yeah, I should get it out just in case.
What was the last horror movie or game that had a big impact on you that really got like under your bones and terrified you more than you thought
Well,
it
the
would?
last that really terrified me was Hereditary.
Oh my
That was very
God,
good.
yes.
Yeah, so that was the best one in several years. Not sure I've seen something as good as that in a
Mhm.
long time. So it was really a masterpiece, in my opinion. It's really dark, and it's really keeps you in a mood for a few days afterward as well. So yeah,
Yeah, that kind
I,
of that stays with you long after you watch it. And I
yeah,
love
yeah. I mean,
like Ari Aster loves those family dramas. He's like so good at that.
yeah. It's very good that he put a family in center of this satanic cult and
Mhm.
these demonic possessions. I mean, it's really, I mean, it's done in a very very new fresh way, and it's done much more seriously than I've seen in a long time. It's the attention to detail and obviously going through the lore of it all. I mean, there was obviously a lot of research done and a lot of careful planning and shots. I mean, it was really not like your average horror movie.
Yeah, they don't make them like that as often as they should.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, it was a passion project for him, so it's obviously it doesn't come around often enough. So as for the games, I'm not sure that I played scary games recently. I didn't catch anything that really attracted me that much. So I don't know.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. Well, on that topic, um, if you were given the chance to make a sequel or a reboot of an existing horror IP that's sort of been dormant for a while or just didn't have a really good last game that came out recently, what franchise would you pick?
Well, in games, I mean sequels. I love the Suffering
Oh my
game.
God.
That's something that I would
I
that
don't
I
hear
would
that
definitely do.
name enough. That's a good one.
Yeah, I loved that game back in the day. I mean, it was so good. I think it was very underrated. I mean, it doesn't come up often enough, but it was very, very creative. It was original. The monsters were excellent in there, and the atmosphere was also. I mean, everything about the game was fresh to me at that time, and that's something that kind of a game definitely. I mean, the different types of prisoners that died and
Yes.
came back as those creatures and everything. I mean, it's a real good setting.
Yeah, and again, you would think that would have happened long before it did, but it's like the idea was right there. A horror game in a prison cell. Like that sounds
Yeah, it's horror in the
so
prison, and
good.
Yeah, and on an island, deserted island, so everything is very good in that game, and you know the monsters with like syringes on their fingers, and all those different types of deaths. It was really you could really get into that world.
Right.
So yeah, I like that. That would be something that I'd love to work on if anybody was making a sequel to that.
I'm actually, if I don't forget, I'm gonna download both games right now so I can play them later.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna revisit it again.
Yeah,
I don't know if they did. I don't think they did a remaster or anything.
No, no, I'm big on emulation, so I just
yeah.
I play them off the PC. Here we go, suffering. Download. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let's see. Where just promoting piracy at the end of the show. Let's say
piracy is big here in Serbia still.
Really?
It's still here. Yeah. It's like it never went away. Like we did get some like Microsoft when they came to Serbia, like 20 years ago or something, they started like checking up on companies and checking up on everybody having the original Windows and stuff like that. But lately, it's just been abandoned. Like nobody cares anymore. So piracy is booming again, I think. So I mean, there are a lot of people buying originals. That wasn't the case before, but also a lot of piracy as well.
Interesting. Yeah, my thoughts on that is, if it's old enough where I can no longer purchase it off of a platform or a service, I'm gonna emulate. Like I have all the Nintendo games, Game Boy, Genesis, PS1. You know.
Yeah.
I gotta preserve them somehow. I'm not gonna spend $80 for like a PS1 classic, or the hell they call it, for like I'm not gonna do that.
If I really like the game, like even if I have a pirate copy, if I really like it, I will buy it. I mean, I will buy it, but there are like so many crap games that I play, and then I would be really, really sorry if I bought them all for price. And like it was always like the average pay in Serbia is lower than like average pay in the Western countries. So it was always like $60 here was a bit more than you'd want to spend, you know. So it was like if they wanted to decrease piracy in these parts, they should sell games for cheaper compared to the average pay. So that was the biggest problem here, and that's why piracy bloomed. Like even before, where it was even bigger difference between pay than it was, and of course we never had any serious law about it over here. I mean, there is a law here now, and somebody sometimes gets fined, but mostly, I mean, you can download a lot of stuff and get away with it.
Yeah,
pretty easily.
I feel guilty whenever like a really good indie game is on Game Pass, and I'm like, I like to buy the game and support the developer directly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's. I mean, I'm even more. There's a bigger chance for me to actually buy the game if I try it, a pirate version, and then I like it, and I say, okay, I'm definitely. I want to have this original and have all the achievements and everything fully unlocked within original. But if it's and maybe if I didn't get the pirate, I wouldn't even think about the game, and I wouldn't have bought it at all. So it's like it goes both ways. I mean, I am basically against fully going piracy, of course, but it does help like educate a lot of kids like that wouldn't have their pocket monies to spend on a lot of types of games. So they get into gaming, and eventually they start buying games. And I think this is what CD Projekt Red they're also saying, like they're giving like The Witcher and everything, that they know there's a lot of piracy going on with their game, but it just gets them more audience that eventually, because they love the game, are going to buy the original. So more people, I think, are going to buy that original, and I don't think they're actually going to skip on buying the original because they have a pirate version. I think rather if there was no pirate, then the whole audience would be smaller in those parts of the world where games are much more expensive per average user. So there has to be a balance, I think.
Yeah, of course. All right, Goran, I think I have one last question to ask you. A fun one, too. Ripout comes out next year. A huge success. Commercially, critically. Just, you have like yacht money. That's how good the game is doing. And you and your team are out celebrating. And you get really, really just drunk and destroyed. Like fall down drunk.
Okay.
What word best describes you when you've had a little too much to drink?
Oh, describes me or the team?
You can answer both if you want. You can be the team first
well,
and yourself.
me personally, I get very friendly. Like I get huggy and friendly when I'm drunk. So you, if you catch me drunk, that's not very often. I mean, I don't get drunk like maybe once in a few years. You'll get me in that state. But I'm very friendly at that point, and I think I love everybody at that time. So very good. And I think the rest of the team, don't know if I seen everybody drunk, but from what I know, either they get quiet or they get like in the mood for music or something. But everybody is pretty positive when drunk. We don't have aggressive drunks on our side. So yeah, it's a happy time all around.
All right. I love it. All right, Goran. Yeah, that's incredible. Where can we follow the project, the game? Give us all of the social media info.
Well, I think Discord and Twitter are the best for immediate information that we give out about the game. So everything that comes out is going to come to Twitter or Discord. So you can everybody can just come to Discord or Twitter and we answer all of the questions that we can about the game, and we give out new information regularly. So everyone's welcome there. And of course, the Steam page is there, so it's updated from time to time, and it's going to be more updated as we get near the end.
Great. All right. Yeah, and we'll include all those links below for everyone to follow you guys and of course this game, because that algorithm needs some assistance, so we'll get you up there as best we can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. That will do it for this week, listeners. Thank you so much, Goran. This has been a pleasure. I mean, the game sounds incredible. I cannot wait to play it next year. And yeah, thank you for joining me. And listeners, we're getting to the end of Spooky Games Month. There's a few more big ones coming down the pipeline between now and maybe some will leak into November because I overbooked some stuff because I like scary games. So sue me. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you, Goran. And as always, please be excellent to each other.